Hello everybody and welcome back to our great tutorials on how to AMV. This time it is on Windows Movie Maker 2011 to be more specific. I would talk about the older XP version, but the reality is that that doesn't hold up anymore because you can't use any MP4 files and you really can't make any high definition files on that program. So of course the first thing you're going to do when you're making an AMV is that you're going to have to grab all that footage you got. Yay! So we're just going to grab a bunch of this stuff here. One of the main things, and I believe I said this in the last video. So if you want to have an entire episode of something, like this is a lot of data that it takes in. So when you put in an entire episode to maybe cut little snippets out, then it takes a very long time for it to load all of that and to put it into Movie Maker. And then after you get all of your footage in here, the first thing I recommend to do is save. I already made a save file for this one, so we're good. Now, while Movie Maker does not require the heaviest of computer processors and data, the reality is that it still takes up a lot of processing especially because it's a very simple program. Generally advanced programs, they're actually at better functioning at monitoring how much data they use and allocate and not taking up so much of your CPU power. Movie Maker's not. And as you can see here, it does have its glitches, which is again why the reason I say save, because now you'll see here that clearly the video is fine. There isn't anything wrong with the video. You'll see this green stuff pop up every now and then. Usually what I recommend is you save, close out, reopen the file. So then of course the next thing you're going to need is your music. So we're just going to go pick you because why not? So one of the main things that you'll notice is that it automatically defaults at putting all of this in the front. You can move the music to any spot on the timeline here, but honestly the best option for you is to just keep it at the front and put all of your AMV work at the front, as you'll see me do in a second here. But one of the nice things about it is that if you put in your song and you need to edit all this stuff out still, you can do that because you can split a video file, as you'll see here, which you'll have to do a lot of in AMV editing. One second. Sorry. Which you'll see a lot of in AMV editing. You'll split files and it's still one video file, so you don't have to worry about anything getting all janked up while things move around, and you can always move a bunch of all your files around, and the video and the audio length is still the same. Probably one of the biggest gripes is that if you get footage like I did, where I pretty much just picked and grabbed all these pieces that I liked, you'll see that all the audio is there. So while yes, I don't have to do any extra editing with these, I can just grab and drag. So like I said, you'll see there that it kind of flips out, but again, it'll go away later. It'll go away at some point. What you'll have to do is you'll have to go to volume and you have to hit mute. So if I were to the reason though I don't worry about this is because in advanced editors this isn't a problem, especially in the one that I use, but with Movie Maker it would be. So whenever you're taking the footage from from a long-standing episode and cutting it down into these big bits, generally the best practice is the second we'll put a good example here. So when you grab an episode, and so whatever this is, and the second you put it in, you grab it, go look at that episode, and mute it immediately. If that's the first thing you do, then you don't ever have to worry about the audio being in your AMV. So now we get into the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. Actually setting your AMV up. So one of the main things you're going to do here is, now you may get a little reverb from my actual computer. So we're going to, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to find your starting point, whatever that may be. So I'll just say I want to start with this part of footage. So you just kind of listen in. So I found out where I want to kind of stop the music, or I found out where I want to go with editing it. So just kind of listen. So that's about where I know I wanted to stop it. A lot of it's kind of an eyeballing because you can't be very precise with this thing. The reason being is like you can see here, and I'll probably zoom in on the video, but as you can see here, the waveforms aren't very specific. Now, some of these things like here is it is. You can kind of see as it, because this is a shorter clip, and that's the other aspect, is that while this and this look the same size, you can see the duration of time is very different. And the reality is that that's just the way that Movie Maker is. So you'll kind of, and then we're gonna have to find the part we want. So that looks about where we want it. So again, I'm gonna split it, and then I'm gonna just delete this extra stuff. It's gone from the timeline. I don't have to worry about it. So now I kind of have this cut version, and I have this cut version of what I want. Let's get rid of the rest of that. And and then things can start, and then eventually I'll have things that build together. So as you'll kind of see here, and then you continue to move on from there. Do any kind of cutting that you feel matches the music any way you will for an AMV. That's not something I can kind of teach you to do. That's something that you're essentially just going to have to make up on your own. So then the other thing that we'll get into is essentially transitions / effects. In terms of just base effects, you're really not going to get a lot of options. You can kind of get into these like black and white kind of off color things. Like these are kind of nice if you need it. Generally this I don't think would ever be used. But let's see, like this one would be interesting. But the reality is that you're most likely not going to use these. The ones that you're probably going to use are fade in from whites, fade out, fade in from black, kind of like these 3D ripples, probably not. But the aspect, what you can do as well, as another option, is transitions. Now these ones I wouldn't recommend doing because usually they're not too great. The crossfade isn't bad, but it's like these blocky ones. Like they usually don't make for a great AMV. Like, hey, that one. I mean, like, wow, actually that one worked out. That worked out actually a lot better than I thought it. That was just by chance. But say you want to fade in from this shot to this one. So what we're going to do, and we want to fade to white as if it's a distant memory. Well, if you want to fade in from white, you're not really going to have that option here. You really only get the blur through black, which isn't a bad one. So actually, we will just go, for example, for this one, we'll go through black. So we want to do a fade to black that goes to a fade in from black, right? We want to have that alone. So we want to make this a little custom, so you can just type it in. So we just want to do, let's just try 3.5 seconds. Sure, why not? So we'll go over here, and we'll kind of let it go and observe, and it fades out, fades in. We're good. Like I said, like this, if it's, a lot of things like that, if that happens and it bothers you, just close it out, and then reopen it up again. And then now it's open, and you can, and then hopefully you'll see here now it is good. Movie Maker really isn't the most perfect program. It definitely has its glitches, and it can be very problematic. But if, say, you wanted to have like a fade to white, let's do that, like distant memory idea. Okay, well, so we'll go between these two. So you essentially, what you'll have to do is you'll go to, see, that's fade in from white. So we just do this. So we get fade out to white, and then we have the next one be fade in from white, right? So now we have this nice smooth transition here. But I want it faster. Okay, so it's going to be a little more complicated, but that's just the way video editing is. So let's say I want the fade to only last a very small amount of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go near the end of the clip there, and we're going to split the video. Let's not worry about this crap. And then we're going to go to the visual effects, and we're going to go to the fade out to white. Now you'll see here, it's very quick. So, and then let's get in just kind of a little bit of a shorter, fade in from white, and then We'll go over here, fade in from white, and then, so boom. Now we're going to have this really quick fade in from white, fade out to white. Now you got to be careful on the time, because like clearly here you can see it's so quick that you don't even notice it. So we'll make it a little bit longer. This is one of those things where this is actually just a nuance of editing, not really a hit on Movie Maker. This dumb green block is a hit on Movie Maker, but this isn't a critique of really Movie Maker itself and just editing, to where having this, having to time all this stuff is fairly problematic. Though on advanced editors, I will at least note that it is much easier. So the next thing that we're going to look into is, let's say I want a black screen. Well, main thing what you'll do is you'll go into Paint, and you'll do one of two things. So if you want a white screen, you just make the picture as big as you can. Like, I made it way too big, but you really just kind of want it to be close to 16 by 9 as possible. And then you save it as a white screen. Or you take this, save it as a black screen. I mean, anything you can do this kind of thing in, it will work. But because in Movie Maker you can't technically, input a black, like, the reason being is that in an advanced editor, usually we can leave a space here. But in Movie Maker, everything has to be connected. So if I want a black screen here, what I have to do is I have to go in, and what we got to do is go find, let's just go to this black screen, and there. And so now I can input this black screen. So, I wanted that there. Sometimes it gets a little wonky of where you're placing things, whether or not it's where you wanted to place it there or not. And then because you can't actually split the image, you have to go on duration alone. So essentially what you have to do, and you'll have to do this a lot in the video editing in general, is, so we'll just say, let's go 1.36. Right? Whatever. And we have that long of a sentence. The problem that comes with a white screen is this. These black bars are here. And that's why usually a white screen doesn't work terribly well. If you can find ways to get it to work, then that's great. But otherwise, you're most likely not going to get it to work terribly well, unless, if the thing I would say to try and experiment with is to maybe try and get it in, I was hoping you could see the dimensions. If you can get it to like a 1080, pixel ratio, if you can make it 1280 by 720, then you don't have to worry about it, and it's not much of a problem. Thank you for watching, and we'll probably put the advanced editing tutorial for those of you who will plan to use something like Adobe, and because for those who will at least be back in school soon enough, the reality is that, or my recommendation is that you use the most advanced profile or advanced editing system that is available to you right away, because really you're not going to learn too much with Movie Maker, because if you haven't edited before, you're really just going to be starting from scratch anyway. But if you start with Premiere or another advanced editor like Power Director, you still will learn much more than you would have otherwise, and you'll be able to continue to grow on that. So my recommendation will be, if it's available to you, start on the most advanced editing software that you have available to you, and you'll be much better for it. Otherwise, then I will see you guys later, and hopefully that advanced editing tips and tricks will be up again later. But for now, this has been a Movie Maker, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.